Namaste, dear friends. I hope you all are well. I just had a very long day at work, and I'm driving home right now, and I thought I would record a video because I wanted to go through the steps of rain with an example, because the last video I did for you guys, I believe, you guys and girls, I believe was on the steps of rain. And something happened last night that I really didn't think was going to happen. And that was when I was doing my Wednesday night meditation and Dharma talk. That all went well. It was a great talk, by the way, on intention. It was the second part. And then in discussion group, there's usually, I don't know, maybe 40 to 50 people, maybe not that many, maybe 30 to 40 people that show up for the discussion group to discuss the talk. And because there are so many people, we break into breakout rooms on Zoom, and there's a facilitator for each group, and there was quite a few facilitators. I think there was like 5 last night, so there was like between 5 and 6 people in a group last night. And typically the routine for breakout room is you introduce yourself and you say briefly something that resonated with you in the talk. And then once everybody has had their chance to share, there's like an open discussion. So you say your name, where you're from, what resonated with you. Everybody gets a chance to do that with no crosstalk. And then once everybody has had a chance to share, then it's like an open discussion where you can, if you have questions about something, if you want to piggyback off of somebody else's answer, you can do that. But in the small breakout room that I was in last night, I had never been in this facilitator's group before. Or if I have, it's only been like one time because I'm not familiar with her. But in all the other breakout rooms, they do it the way that I just described. Well, her as a facilitator, I guess, she wanted to just say your name, where you're from, move on. And then we would get to what resonated with everybody. And so I did not realize that. And so I was the second person to go because the first person introduced themselves. They said where they're from. And they said like a short little thing about like maybe what resonated with them, whatever. Like, okay, like this is the way it is. And so then I go into who I am, and then I start kind of on this longish story about, why I think intentions are important and what happened with me last week at work and how my intentions weren't good. And once I realized that, I rectified the situation. And so I was getting into my story, and then mid-story she just stops me. She's like, "Oh, I'm going to stop you. And I just want you to hold that thought. Let's get through everybody first." And I instantly felt this great, deep sense of humiliation. And I'm going to get into that in a second, because I want to tell you how I handled it. And it probably wasn't the best possible way, because in the moment I was very in an irrational emotional state. So I didn't say anything because my irrational go-to is passive aggressive. And so I'm sitting there, I muted my mic, I'm sitting there thinking, okay, it's okay, you can deal with this, you can get through this. And I just felt like I no longer want to share. I no longer feel like this is a safe space. And so I left the group. And I was not going to join again because I left and I'm like, I'm humiliated. I'm not doing this anymore tonight. I just need to get through this and whatever. But then I thought maybe if I tried to get back in, they'll just push me into a different group. And that is exactly what happened. And I got a facilitator that I like, that I'm familiar with, that I've been with before, both as her as a person sharing stories and stuff, and as a non-facilitator, because now she is a facilitator. So anyway, so I thought it would be a good idea to take that situation and go through the steps of RAIN like I should have done last night and didn't. So recognize. In that moment, when she stopped me and I felt humiliated, that would be recognize, right? I recognize that I'm humiliated. I felt a sense of, once again, I'm wrong. My cheeks got red, as they do, when you're embarrassed. So I was feeling those things, and because I was feeling a sense of embarrassment and shame for being cut off and thinking, once again, I've done something wrong, I recognized all that, but I no longer wanted to share. So the R of recognize are all of the things I just said. I felt shame, I felt embarrassment, I felt it in my cheeks. Where did I feel it in my body? That also comes back with investigate. Let's go to the A, allow. And could I allow those feelings to be there? Now, I think in the definition of allow, I'm going to say in that moment, no, I couldn't allow it to be there, because I just kind of pushed it aside, and I thought if I go back in, I can get a different facilitator and everything will be okay. Now, in that moment, everything was okay because I did get a different group, but I didn't allow those feelings to be there. I didn't investigate the feelings. I didn't allow them to be there so that I could offer compassion and kindness to them. So in that moment, the answer was no, I could not be with these feelings. Now I can, because I'm in a different frame of mind. So the I, the investigate. Now this is where I think it starts to get a little tricky, because I think the I and the N of RAIN are the hardest for me. So in the investigation stage, you can ask your questions. What are you most aware of? And what I was most aware of in that moment of embarrassment was I felt shame. I felt like, once again, I did something wrong and I need to be shamed for it, and I'm in trouble. And, my counselor would say, well, how young did that make you feel? And in that moment, I felt really young. I felt like I had just been scolded by a parent or a teacher, because that has happened in my past as well, when I have done something that I thought was right and ended up being wrong, or at least at least how somebody else perceived it to be wrong. Now, this is where it gets confusing for me, because like in Buddhism, there really is no right and wrong. That's dualism, right? And when I think about that, when I think about the situations in my life where I have been shamed or scolded and I feel like I'm in the wrong, at that moment, I felt like I was doing the right thing. But where does this shame come from? I don't know. Where does that deep-rooted sense of shame come from? I'm not sure. I really don't. And that's why investigate is hard for me. So, what was I most aware of? Well, I was definitely aware that my cheeks were hot. I felt shame. I felt like I was in the wrong for what I did, even though we have always done group the way that I was doing it. So, and then the next question that you can ask is, where is the feeling the worst? You know, what would it express if it could? Well, my humiliation was the worst feeling there. I mean, it was like cheeks on fire humiliation is what I felt, and which I haven't felt that embarrassed in a long time. But that was something that I felt. And if I asked, what could it express if it could, I would give it a voice, and I would just simply say, you know, to the other person, I'm sorry, this is how all the other groups have always done it. I was in the middle of a story. I feel embarrassed, you know. And I also want to say that I think it would also express anger. Almost like a, how dare you cut me off when I am being vulnerable right now. You know, this group is supposed to be a safe place. I'm supposed to feel safe. I'm supposed to, you know, in the safe space, I should be allowed to feel vulnerable without crosstalk, without unsolicited advice, with all of this. And that is exactly what is expressed in the rules of our group, you know. And now here is this woman that is cutting me off, telling me that I need to stop my story, stop being vulnerable right now, so that we can let everyone else have a chance to introduce themselves, and then we'll come back to you. But that's not how we did it before. And so if my embarrassment had a voice, it would say that I'm sorry that, you know, you think that this is not the right place. I wouldn't put it back on her, because we shouldn't do that. But I would definitely let her know, like, other groups have done it the way I'm doing it. I'm sorry, this is supposed to be a safe space. I now feel humiliated. I feel like I cannot share with you now. And I would express a little bit of anger, because that is exactly how I felt in that moment. You know, and so what did my humiliation believe? Well, what that humiliation, that embarrassment believed was that I was a young child being scolded by a parent or a teacher or an authority figure, and that I was 100% wrong in what I was doing. And that's not true. I was not wrong in what I was doing. Because again, right and wrong is dualism, but what I was doing was not hurting anybody. We had plenty of time to share, so it wasn't like I was taking time away from everybody. I was simply doing what we always do in group. And I was feeling like I was wrong for doing that. I was wrong. I was in trouble. And I felt like it was all on me. You know, so then we have to ask ourselves, and this goes into the N, nurture, like, what do you most need, or what do I most need right now? And in that moment, looking back, I feel like in that moment, my inner child needed a voice, which I did not give. My inner child needed to be protected, advocated for, which again I did not do. And then after it being validated and protected and looked after, it needed to be held. It needed comfort. I needed to be told, or I needed to feel that everything would be okay. This isn't the end of the world. That I don't have to be a part of that person's breakout group anymore. And if it happens, I know now that I can just simply leave and come back into somebody else's room. So you see how RAIN works, how you can ask your questions. Well, and then there's this, I'm sorry, let me step back. And then there's this after the RAIN. And after the RAIN is simply just to feel the space that you created by going through RAIN, knowing that everything's okay, feeling that peace and that calm that comes from doing a round of RAIN. Now, I'm very new at the RAIN strategy, and I need to do it a lot more than I do, because there are things, like I said, I needed a voice, I needed my feelings to be validated, and I did not make those things so in the moment. And now, looking back, I'm like, yeah, I can do that in the future. Maybe, because when you're in that flipped state of mind, it's hard to think rationally, at least for me. So I just, I'm not the best at RAIN, but it is a strategy. Because I do feel a little bit better talking to all of you about this and going through those steps, because it was something, like, I was going to talk to my boyfriend about it, but he wasn't responding last night, and I'm like, fine, I'm just going to go to bed, I'm just going to forget about this. But clearly I have not just forgotten about this, because it was something that struck and triggered me deeply. So that's why I am bringing it to you, because I thought this was a great opportunity to go through each step of RAIN and show you kind of how it works. Like I said, I'm very much a beginner at going through these steps, but that's what we're here for. We're here to do it together. So, if you have any questions or comments, please comment on the video, or you can always reach me at beginnerbuddhistbasics@gmail.com, which you see on the screen here. So thank you for joining me in this video. Let me know if you have gone through a series of RAIN and what you have done differently or the same, or if you just have questions about the process and how it feels for you. So thank you once again for joining me in this video. Take care, my friends. Namaste.